Today marks 1 year since 4 University of Idaho students were murdered. This is not something that would happen in a small community like Moscow, and it rocked the community, and not just here, but also the entire world.
That's right. There were TikToks, podcasts, and complete online forums all started for people to discuss this case and their own theories about it as well. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk actually sat down with the author of a new book about this case to talk about the spectacle that it's all become.
Within a matter of days, it seemed like the entire country, even parts of the world, had heard of the murders on King Road and knew the names and faces of the young victims. The hashtag Idaho4 began trending on Twitter, and the case wasn't left behind in the 24-hour news cycle. Network television crews stood shoulder to shoulder. TikTokers and YouTubers flocked to the small college town, some as far away as Florida.
College kids, this is horrific. It's just horrific. Whether this made national news or not, we were coming regardless because we just wanted to support the community. We wanted to support these families. We wanted to support the victims.
Investigators remained tight-lipped for nearly 2 months, and there was a reason for that. But despite this, people wanted answers, and some internet sleuths began to create their own. But no one, except for Idaho police and the FBI, had Brian Kohberger on their radar. And when the PhD student was arrested in Pennsylvania over winter break and touched down on the Palouse days later, the national spotlight intensified.
This case, with the mystery sort of hanging out there, was the perfect setup for that social media frenzy. People weighing in, people contributing evidence.
It's been 1 year, and J. Reuben Appelman has already written a book on the case.
And some people say, like, well, how can you have this book without the trial, right? I never intended to write a book that included the trial. This was, to me, not about Brian Kohberger.
Appelman says his book, While Idaho Slept, provides more context on the case and focuses on the victims and the Moscow community.
It was about how the community repairs itself, how communities in general repair themselves from the visitation of this kind of violence, how the surviving family members find hope in their lives, how they move forward.
Appelman says his decision to write the book wasn't just influenced by all the attention the case has received. His own daughter went to the University of Idaho, and he's lived in the state for decades.
The violence never leaves the communities, it never leaves the families. It drifts from shoulder to shoulder among everybody who was affected by these crimes, and that's really the story that I wanted to tell. We think a year is a long time, but in their hearts and in their psyche and in their, what we would call inherited trauma, a year is nothing. There are a lot of people up there that are living with a lot of heartbreak, even if they didn't know these students.
I'm Kyle Simchuk.